in Arizona. And this is after what happened this last week. You know, that snowstorm, we had told you, our meteorologist, Crystal Ortiz, doing such a great job saying, look, be ready. This is going to be a major snowstorm. And this video that's coming in this morning is giving us, I think for a lot of us, really our firsthand look at how crazy it was. So the I-40 was shut down. You know that area between Flagstaff and Williams, and then Williams over, say, to Ash Fork. People sometimes can be shocked how much snow they get up in that area when it really starts coming down heavy and the roads have to be closed. So there were a bunch of people who were stranded out there. And this really is, I think, a very good warning for all of us. Look at this guy here. All this video from Murphy's Diesel. And he's out there in a jacked up truck and has enough high center of gravity there that he can move right through. And it looks like maybe even has chains on those great big tires of his. But we had all kinds of people who were trapped out there on the 40 for hours in the cold and in the snow. And really, as this next storm heads our way, it is, I think, a pretty good warning for all of us, which is to avoid highways that have the potential for snow or blowing snow blocking the roads. There is a good news story coming out of all this, and it has to do with a guy named Rick Murphy, and he goes by the nickname of Wrecker Rick. And this guy knows what he's doing. He says he has multiple crews, and they went to work when the 40 was shut down by 2 feet of snow. He said drivers in some cases tried to get into back roads to get past the closure of the 40, and that's not a good plan. Multiple getting stuck. He tells us that a lot of folks follow detours on their phone's GPS, which may not have the latest weather info. And here's what he had to say about it when he was chatting with us here at Fox 10.
Sometimes they cry, sometimes they are just so grateful. They still try to give us money. And if you get stuck, you're stranded for hours. And then on top of it, you got to worry if you're going to be able to pay your bills because the recovery bill is going to be so astronomical.
Yeah, no surprise there. And so what he does is he gets out there and, he's basically doing it as a good Samaritan. But sometimes people will offer to pay, and if they do, he takes it. If they don't offer to pay, fine, I'm just out here trying to help. But then what he does is he takes some of that cash and uses it, puts it to work for the next time around when either he or some of his other guys are going to be out there doing what they have to. Look at that picture right there. I mean, that is tough. I don't want to say sledding. That is tough going out there, and you just don't realize what it can be like if you get off the freeway. It's bad enough on the freeway, but boy, oh boy, when we saw these pictures, we knew Rick was somebody that we wanted to talk to, primarily because, look, if there's a threat of snow or blowing snow, and you're on either the 40 or the 17, those are the two big ones. And by the way, plenty of multiple U.S. highways, that are just two-lane roads. Just be extremely cautious about traveling in that over the next, we'll find out. Crystal's going to pop in at 10:30, and I'm going to ask her specifically if she can pin it down as to when this snow is going to start the next time around. But she said it could be another foot of snow up in that part of northern Arizona. And the maps show that it's got the potential to really kind of scrape all the way across the rim, down to Payson, up to Heber. They've been getting some, and right through Pinetop Lakeside and the White Mountains. Want to say a good morning to all of you guys who are joining us this morning. We've got quite a sizable audience. So let's just see who some of the folks are. By the way, Celeste is off this week, and so we have had a number of guest hosts, and we're going to introduce you to our newest guest host, who I don't think has done the pod before, or the stream before, over the last maybe, 8-9 months that we've been doing it, but we're excited to have her here today. As a matter of fact, let me just look over. Ladies and gentlemen, come on in. Dominique Newland joins. Okay, so Dom, I'm hanging out with all our folks in the chat box. And in about, once we get past the delay, which will be about 10 more seconds, we're going to have all kinds of people saying good morning to Dom. I'm going to pull your microphone open right here. I'm trying to remember, you've done some phoners on the stream, but have you actually hosted before?
I've never sat across from you, so I'm excited.
Good.
I'm in the hot seat.
Okay, now pull that microphone right up to you. Did you say you're in the hot seat?
I'm in the hot seat.
Oh,
with
yeah.
Ron Hoon.
Yeah, but it's super cool. We're super cool. We're super cash. As a matter of fact, everybody is already saying hi. So,
Good morning.
we were just talking about, I'm just share it one more time, this Good Samaritan. Look at that. When you moved to Arizona, Dom, now where were you working before here? Texas,
I was in Austin,
right?
Texas.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you think you were going to be dealing with this kind of business?
Absolutely not. No. And, we get just like that snowstorms once a year
Right.
in Texas, just about. And I'm like, what's happening? And that's kind of everyone panics. The grocery store items start, going bare, and
Yeah.
everyone kind of freaks out for a little bit. But it happens every year.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, also, the thing about it is then we had lots of, I love this shot right here. This
Oh,
is super
wow.
creative. The rain was coming down this morning. I was surprised. So I live in Mesa. Remind me what town you're in.
Downtown Phoenix.
Okay. You're right downtown. Could you walk to work from where
No.
you are? No. Okay.
If I really wanted to, but no.
Okay. Yeah. Not at that hour, especially.
Yeah. For safety
Right.
reasons,
Correct.
no.
No 3 a.m. Walking around town. But when I first pulled out of the garage, and I live out there in East Mesa, almost to Queen Creek, really, and there were just a few little droplets, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But then by the time I got on the Superstition Freeway, it was a downpour.
Oh, was it?
Out there at about Higley and Greenfield and Val Vista. I mean, to the point, that I thought, I wonder if people are going to start pulling off the freeway here.
Oh, wow.
Because they're concerned that it was that intense. But it only lasts, for a minute or two.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting thing, too, about Arizona rain. It's very scattered.
Very.
And so you could be driving down, the freeway, and it's pouring down. As soon as you get off an exit, it's clear.
Yeah.
So that's something I'm learning, too, about Arizona. If it rains, I'm like, okay, certain patches.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, now also, just introduce yourself a little bit more to the audience. Tell us, where you're originally from and how your path led you here to Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, I'm originally from Carmel, Indiana.
Okay.
It's a little suburb town, probably 30 minutes northeast of Indianapolis, right outside of Indianapolis.
So are you still a Colts fan?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh,
yeah, I don't really have a
so-so.
team. I
Really?
think I need a team.
Could I talk you into the Cardinals?
Sure. Yeah, I can be persuaded. Yeah.
You know,
I think anywhere I go, I root for that team.
okay,
So,
good. Well,
yeah.
we're hoping you're here for a very long time, so
Yes.
you might as well get your Cardinal red.
I'll get my Cardinals gear, my son's gear, all the things.
Right.
And then right after college, I went to Yuma, Arizona, so not
Okay.
too far from
Where'd you
here.
go to college?
Indiana University.
Oh, nice. You are
I'm
a Hoosier.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm a Hoosier. So
Yeah.
that was amazing time. Loved Bloomington. I was just back a couple weeks ago, and it was nice to be
Yeah.
back on campus.
I actually, years ago, back in the 80s, I was working here at this station, and I had a photographer buddy
Oh.
who attended IU.
Oh.
And he said, hey, there's going to be a game tonight after we're done shooting our story. Do you want to go?
Oh.
Did you ever see the clip of Bobby Knight throwing the chair all the way
Yes.
across the court?
Iconic.
Okay.
Iconic.
This was the very next home game after that.
Oh.
And I thought, what's he going to throw this time? You know what he did? He sat on the bench. I'm sure he'd had a talking to.
Yep.
He sat on the bench kind of like this.
Oh.
The whole
The
game.
whole game.
I mean, he barely got up and moved around.
Oh,
but-
yikes.
yeah.
Yeah. Still
Anyway,
thinking
that's-
about his actions from the last game. And you know what was interesting?
Yeah.
So when I went back home a couple weeks ago, I went to a basketball game. They brought out the chair. The chair was
What?
there
Are you kidding?
for the current coach. Yeah. And he sat in the chair.
Oh, they saved that chair.
They saved it. And it's still
because
there.
it's like a red plastic.
Yep.
old-fashioned
old
chair.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And it was there. So it was kind of cool. I got
Yeah.
to see the iconic chair.
Eventually, I think it needs to go into the Basketball Hall
Oh,
of Fame.
Yeah. Somewhere, but just the chair there.
Yeah.
in
All
all
right.
its glory.
Well, back to our weather coverage here, because to me, Dom. I don't know in Indiana if you guys got sunsets or sunrises quite like this, but boy, this time lapse. Whoever the brilliant person was in our newsroom around sunset last night who said, you know what? Let's roll a time lapse from our downtown cam.
Great idea.
Just beautiful.
Yeah, we thank you.
Yeah, that's up there on one of those buildings that's over there by the Chase Field, the Diamond home of the D-backs. And man, it was beautiful,
Wow, look at
wasn't
that.
it?
It is. In our state, truly best sunrises and sunsets. And I'm just not saying that either. I've been some places, and
Right.
I don't think, Arizona has some of the best. They're gorgeous.
Hey, one of the stories we're following today is the FAA has finally announced, coming out of this just disastrous plane crash that happened there in Washington, D.C., they have finally announced that big changes are coming to the area around the Reagan Airport. Not only that, but nationwide, they're going to finally start upgrading their computer systems.
Oh, wow.
From my understanding, these systems are so old, and the computers they use that are so old, they still have floppy disks.
Oh, my gosh.
Aren't those like out of the history books or
Right.
something? How is that possible?
Yeah, and of the new cars we have don't even have those discs anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
How
Yeah,
are the
little
planes? And how is that
CDs.
passing testing? and
Right. Yeah. Well, that's
code?
exactly what Sean Duffy, the new head of transportation, said. How is this not fixed in the last administration or going back many years?
Right.
So they are going to upgrade the computer system, but they also, he said, we're in a situation where we're threading a needle, allowing helicopters to fly in the same airspace as the landing aircraft. And this will blow your mind. They said that they're looking back at the data they found. 15,000 instances in the last several years of airplanes and helicopters coming too close, coming into Reagan National.
Wow.
Isn't that just unbelievable?
15,000.
Yes,
That's
right?
alarming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do say that now that they've had a chance to really look at it, they're going to upgrade their systems nationwide. That'll probably take some time and
Right.
probably take some funding as well.
Mhm.
But at least they got a plan. And I think you can feel safer if you're ever flying into that airport, which I did about 2 weeks ago.
Absolutely.
Now, Dom, here's the mystery cam, and it's a snowy one. We're going to pop it up. We're going to let our whole audience guess. We'll be back in 2 minutes. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the streaming show on the Fox Local app and also on YouTube. We call it Fox 10 Talks. I'm Ron Hoon, and we're so happy to have Dominique Newland with us today.
Good morning.
Now, Dom, you're from Indiana. When you looked at this picture of the mystery cam, did any town in Indiana pop into your head?
It could be all the cities of Indiana. I saw the gray sky, some snow on the ground. That's typically how the
Right.
Midwest goes. And I was
Yes.
looking at the chat box, and I think because I'm sitting in today, some people are saying Indiana. Jen's Wall said Indiana. Lisa Dinsmore as well. I'm seeing Latanya Shaw says Wisconsin.
Okay.
Frankie D and B. Miguel both say Iowa.
Yeah.
So I can see that. Iowa as well. Marissa Mendoza says Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
And then an interesting one, Shari is saying Alaska.
Our favorite Nevada pup.
Yep, Nevada pup.
Shari. Okay, so Alaska. Well, we've got cameras all over the place. I know we got some up in Canada, so I wouldn't be surprised if we're all the way up in Alaska. So what do you think? What do you want to guess?
I'm going to give it a... Ooh. Let's give it an Illinois.
Oh, nice. Right next door to your home state.
Let's do a neighbor.
Okay. I think I'm going to go with our early guesses there with, let's see, Brandon and Frankie, who said Iowa. So if you'll just reach down there underneath that script, pull out the envelope. Ladies and gentlemen, here she is doing the honors
official.
while Celeste is out this week. And what do we see?
Fort Saskatchewan.
Oh, here, turn it around there. Okay. Oh, yeah, AB. You know what? It is Canada.
Yes.
So, like I was saying, we've got those cameras in Canada.
Our Canadians.
And so, but the thing is, it looks like Saskatchewan, but it's more Saskatchewan. No, maybe it is Saskatchewan.
Fort Saskatchewan.
Yeah. So, okay, let's go back for one more look. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what it looks like. I am not going to make a single joke about the 51st state because people are pretty sore about that topic.
I know. Apologies to the Canadians. I couldn't pronounce it at first. Been wanting to go to Canada. I've never been.
Oh, you'd love it.
I know.
So my wife and I, we actually honeymooned in Vancouver.
Nice.
And then you take a little ferry boat. It's actually a big, gigantic ferry boat, and it goes out to a city called Victoria. And they're both Victoria, to me, is like the most British town anywhere outside of the UK. I mean, you almost feel like you're in London.
Oh, wow.
When you're there. And so, yeah, I love many parts of Canada. But Dom, let's talk about what's going on. This is obviously going to be a big story as the morning goes on with our stock market. Let me pop it up right here. Oh, this is so nuts. It's moving around so much.
Yeah.
We see those little green little shoots coming up every couple of minutes, and it's trying to find a bottom. You know, if you watch the market, my favorite quote, and I've shared it here many times on the streaming show, is the stock market is the only place in the world where they put everything on sale and nobody buys. Right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, talk about panic. Some of these days when we've been down 800, there was one day we were down 1,000.
Wow.
You know, at one point in the middle of the day.
Now, is there a set time where it's supposed to somewhat level out? Any expectancy?
Well, so that's what it's doing right now. If you look
Okay.
at that chart, so we're at 41,400, and it was down, another 200 to 300 points. So it's trying to find a bottom, and maybe in that 41,100 range, it will. You never know until you're all the way out of it, and you said to yourself, I was going to buy low, and then the stocks, eventually come back up.
Yeah.
Now, it is also really interesting because the NASDAQ, which, all those high-tech stocks like Amazon and Google and, you name it, they're all in there. It's actually been on a tear today. So while the Dow is still kind of struggling just a little bit to get back. Oh, stand by. Back in positive territory, up 1 point.
Wow.
The NASDAQ has been on a tear today. Last I looked, it was up over 200 points. So it's kind of leading the way. But some of those NASDAQ stocks, first of all, you would have to kind of ask yourself, if these tariffs continue, how do you put a tariff on Google?
Right.
Right? Or many of these companies that are more, like internet type companies.
Right.
So maybe the tariffs aren't going to hurt them as bad, but some of these NASDAQ stocks have dropped 30%.
Wow.
The Dow is only down about 8 or 9%. And so some people apparently are looking around thinking, who knows? Who knows if we're close to the bottom or if this is going to go on for months at a time?
Time will tell, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
Canada did back off. It was getting pretty scary yesterday when they were talking about, hey, we'll cut off electricity to people's homes in Michigan where it's very cold.
Oh, wow.
And, at some point, I don't know who made the phone call first, whether it came out of the White House or it came out of, because that was a local guy. That was the premier of Ontario, just one of the provinces there.
Right.
And so I have a feeling that it probably more came from the national side in, their version of Washington, D.C. is Ottawa. And that they might have told them, hey, this is gonna be really bad, right? Because the next thing you know, Donald Trump said, then we are going to go with a 50% tariff on your steel and aluminum. And I know they don't want that.
Right.
So anyway, the tariff terror. Sorry.
I like that.
Probably shouldn't have even gone with that. But it continues. But the market is up 47 points. And we'll keep an eye on it.
Yes, we will.
Now, I'm going to go from those pictures. We get live pictures in from all over the place, but I am fascinated, this one, Dom, because we are just hours away from a big rescue mission that's supposed to be happening on the way to outer space. They've got a crew rotation, a normal crew rotation for the ISS. That is finally going to also be a rescue mission for those two poor astronauts who've been stuck in space for 9 months. Now, look, they're saying all the right things, right? Oh, it's all part of our mission. No big whoop. I don't think they actually said that quote, no big whoop.
No big whoop. Maybe we'll find it somewhere.
But come on, man. I mean, I've actually, I think it's Butch Williams. Some of the kids in his family have been like, yeah, but Dad's missed birthdays and anniversaries and Christmas.
Yeah, my heart has been with these two. Ever since they went up and then there were some complications and it kept getting delayed.
Yeah.
I just think about them because that's not what they signed up for, that extended amount of time.
Yeah.
And then like you said, then they're missing out on family milestones.
Well, and they went up there in June of last year, and they were supposed to be up for, I think, a week, maybe 8 days, and then they were supposed to come back. And it was such a black eye for Boeing, who's trying to get back into the space game. And Boeing was so involved in the moonshot and the Saturn V rockets and the Apollo project, for the most part, flawless.
Right.
And they had such a bad year last year with the door popping off that one flight right over Portland, Oregon, and then this happens. I can't imagine that they could have 2 bad years in a row like that.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, here's what everybody needs to know. So the rescue mission will get up there. They're launching at 7:48 p.m. Florida time, so we're now 3 hours apart. That's 3:48 or 4:48 this afternoon, our time. I'm sure we'll probably have some live coverage, either on Live Now from Fox or also on YouTube. But the pair slated for 8 days. They got reassigned to this flight after they just were back down on the ground. They're too nervous to fly back up there with what they had to work with.
Yeah.
And so Butch did say the other day, he said, we came up prepared to stay long, even though we planned to stay short.
Right. Well, at least they were prepared in some capacity.
Yeah. He says, that's what your nation's human spaceflight program is all about. Planning for the unknown, unexpected contingency.
Yeah. Wow.
That's about as best of an attitude I think that you could possibly have.
The best that you can have, yep.
Yeah.
So do they have an exact game plan for how they're getting them back?
Well, I think they're bringing 4 new crew members up as part of the regular rotation to the ISS, and these 2 will hitch a ride, I think, with a couple of others who are going to be going home with them as well. I don't know exactly how long it takes from the time they undock and then basically push back like a plane at an
Right.
airport.
Mm-hmm.
But then the next thing you know, they're kind of hurtling through space and on the way back out here.
Wow.
So I'm sure it'll all go off just fine. And you just have to be so happy for them.
Yeah, I'm sending them all the well wishes. I know their family is going to be happy as well. And it'll just be interesting, too,
Right.
to see what comes once they hopefully do get back on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
All the aftermath of that, and physically, mentally, just because they've
Yes.
been in space for 9 months.
I know.
So what the toll does on your body.
Yeah. I think one of them, I think it was Sonny, who said, I'm going to probably have to learn how to walk because I've
Wow.
been bouncing around up here in outer space for so many months. Speaking
Yeah.
of space, Dom, let me just blow your mind with this fact.
Okay.
This is last night. I mean, they're busy down there at the old liftoff center because this was the Falcon 9 rocket that blasted off last night with a telescope going out there to circle the Earth and collect data on 450 million galaxies.
Oh my gosh.
So
I didn't even know we had that many.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm more partial to the Milky Way.
Yeah.
I mean, we all have our
course.
favorite galaxies,
Of
right?
course. Yeah, we all do. Right at the top of our minds. Yep.
Would you ever fly into space?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm a little nervous.
Just as a flyer.
I think just as a flyer.
Yeah, just on a 737.
Right. I'm like, yeah, that I'll do. And then I just like having my 2 feet on the ground.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Well,
Would you fly?
On a spacecraft?
Yep.
Probably not.
No.
I actually kind of enjoy flying on real planes. I love being at airports, that kind of thing. But I would not want to go up there and get stuck for 9 months
Right.
because, again, birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas. Oh, and by the way, the college football season.
Oh, how
You
can we
never
not
want to miss
forget?
that.
Of course.
Hey, Dom, before I let you go, and thanks so much for hanging out with us, how about this story? I call this story the nose picker's disaster.
Uh-oh.
This is the guy whose wife had warned him for years, quit picking your nose
Yeah.
and basically quit sticking that finger up in your nose for so long. I don't care what's coming out of there.
Right.
Did you hear about this guy yet?
No, I haven't.
Oh, this
I'm a
is
little nervous.
amazing.
Okay.
He actually hit an artery.
Oh.
And so all the warnings from the missus were right. He had to go into surgery.
Oh.
His wife actually went online and said, I told you so.
You know how far he was digging for gold, so to say, to hit an artery?
Yeah.
Wow.
So he's fine now.
Oh.
But wow.
After a certain age, I think the age.
Welcome back, everybody, to more of Fox 10 Talks. Oh, did I mention? We're giving you guys another hour today. We have a very loyal audience who loves the concept of going an hour, and we're doing it more and more. 30 minutes is fine, but some people are demanding a full hour, and today you guys get your wish. We have a special guest coming up in about 2 minutes, but there's one other story that we did want to get to, which has to do with what's been going on up in Washington, D.C. So they did pass late in the day yesterday I guess they call it a CR, a continuing resolution. It actually does cut government spending by $13 billion, but it actually adds your spending. But I did a little bit of research for you guys as to where we stand. In 2019, the federal government spent, this was its budget, this is the year before the pandemic, $4.4 trillion. Then you get into the pandemic, and then the spending was, just going wild. In 1 year, we went from $4.4 trillion to $6.5 trillion. And the issue is the pandemic ended a couple of years ago. So why is the spending still at about that level? 2024's budget, $6.75 trillion. So it's just continued to go up, even though the pandemic's over. And the projection for this year of 2025, even higher at $6.9 trillion. So they're trying to kind of bring government spending back under control, but nobody knows what's going to happen. The House passed it, but now it's the Senate's turn. And here you go. Here's your poll question. If the government does shut down, because it has to get through the House and the Senate, then it goes to the president. But if the government does shut down, who do you think would be to blame? 23%. I'd put it on the Republicans because they keep pushing too many budget cuts. 40% say pin it on the Democrats. The GOP at least did pass a budget in the House, so now it's up to the Democrats in the Senate. And from the reports I see, they're kind of struggling right now to figure out. I mean, the ball is in their court. Republicans are going to vote for it in the Senate. Will the Democrats allow it to go through or not? There are a lot of crosswinds, a lot of different political pressures on them. So they may not. We don't know yet. But then 37% say, now that I think about it, I'm going to put the blame on both of them. Spending's been out of control for years, and both sides are responsible. So look at that, 237 votes. You can join the conversation by voting in our poll question here on YouTube. Now, if we had a studio audience, they'd be breaking into applause for Crystal. You have a loyal fan base, that's for sure. And it's just been amazing just kind of watching you work over the last couple of weeks. You've been very confident in your forecast, and they've really kind of come out, the actual reality looks like day after day, it's coming in right about where you've been saying.
Yeah, I mean, so far so good. Last February, this past month, we were thinking March was going to be the month to finally help us out a little bit after such a lackluster winter.
Right.
And then that has absolutely been the case. We had a few systems last week, and then a few more this week. It's not going to get us back to how our two previous winters were, but hey, we're excited. We're excited.
Any bit is good news.
Absolutely.
And at some point, I would bet they're going to come out with a new drought map. Maybe after the month, or I don't even know right now. Maybe they update it all the time.
It's weekly. So they update it. A new one comes out every Thursday, so we'll get a new one tomorrow. It's usually like a little later after our morning show that it comes out.
Right.
But it only takes into account, I think, through the previous Tuesday. So for everything that happens this week, we'll have to wait until next week's drought monitor to see how that short-term drought is impacted. But I do suspect that at minimum we won't see it continue to worsen, which has been the case the last couple months, really.
This rain, I asked our editor, Kelly, I said, at 7 o'clock this morning, I said, it's so beautiful out there. Will you just roll on it? Yeah. Just to give you some perspective. Yeah, very calm. You're looking over the roof of the Chase Field downtown and right off there toward Piestewa and Camelback. We are hard workers here at Fox 10, don't have a lot of spare time, but at 10:30 in the morning, if I had a couple of spare hours, I wouldn't mind climbing either one of those mountains on a day like this.
This is the best time of year for hiking, isn't it? People
Yeah.
want to come visit. That's what they want to go do. I
Right.
actually assume that some visitors who are here for like spring break or
Right.
spring training are probably a little confused by how often we've been talking rain. And they're hearing snow and going, they get snow in Arizona.
Right.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we welcome all of our visitors who are here for spring training. Hopefully you don't get too many rain outs, but boy, we've been in a drought and we need it. But now, Crystal, let's focus a little bit on what we can expect coming up in the next, 24 to 48 to even 72 hours, huh?
Yeah. So we still have a couple systems left. Remember, there's 3 this week. The first one moved through yesterday evening, last night, and this morning. So these are some of the snow totals that we've seen so far. National Weather Service office out in Belmont picked up almost 3.5 inches.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it was like inch and a half. Downtown Flagstaff Airport, which is in line with our forecast. We were saying around 1 to 3 inches. So this looks pretty good for what we were expecting.
I feel like Belmont's its own little snow globe out there.
Yeah, I think it's slightly higher elevation
Is that what it is?
I think that must be what it is, because they usually get little better totals than say like downtown Flag.
Yeah.
But the National Weather Service, that's where the office is. So also folks out there can take measurements regularly and accurately.
Yes.
I think that's part of it too.
Okay, yeah, sure. All right, so let's look at this. And this is
rain
already.
totals. Yeah. So this is
Okay.
so far what we've picked up. Now the West Valley kind of missed out with last night's round, but you can see outside edge of the valley about 1/4 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch. Then you go over to like PV, almost 1/3 of an inch there, and Fountain Hills at 1/3 of an inch to 1/2 of an inch, and then down into the East Valley, anywhere from a few hundredths to closer to 1/4 of an inch as you get out towards AJ area. So not bad for us.
Right.
We do think we're going to get bigger amounts with this next round moving in.
Oh, by the way, did Sky Harbor, did they have anything?
Yes. I think I saw something about it was just under 2/10 officially.
Good for them.
I believe is what I saw.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's great news. We broke that streak. What was it back in January? But
yeah.
good to truly break it with more than just 100th or 200th.
Yeah.
That's what's left of the system that we currently have. Just really some sprinkles, kind of parts of mostly mountainous areas outside of the valley, areas to the east. This is continuing to fizzle out. So then, as you mentioned, Ron, the next thing is what the next storm moving in, and that one begins tomorrow. So in the morning tomorrow, for the high country specifically, snow showers will begin. They'll probably be kind of light and patchy at first, but some slippery roads will be possible. This is more like mid to late morning that we're expecting. The main event tomorrow, and what I'm concerned about, is the afternoon into the early evening. That's when we're tracking some heavier rain to snow, especially above 6,000 feet, which means some snow-packed roads are likely to develop with limited visibility. So as the snow starts to come down heavier, and it's going to be windy, there may be periods where visibility really drops, and it's kind of a problem for folks on the road. In fact, the National Weather Service has already said that if you can avoid travel during those normal evening commute hours, say like 4 to 6 p.m., that's probably your best bet, because it's probably going to be bad
All right.
conditions.
That's
out
what
there.
I was going to ask specifically.
Yeah.
So around three in the afternoon, just don't be on the 40.
Yeah, exactly. Because you know how it goes. Even a little bit of snow, and a lot of times we end up with accidents up there, or the road gets snowpacked and they have to close it for a bit. So
Right.
we had those folks that got stuck just with the last system, and there's going to be the possibility again with this one, some pretty heavy snow. By Friday morning, the system has moved out, but still snowy, icy roads are likely. So probably the Friday morning drive is going to be, at minimum, a slow go up there too.
Okay.
And here's a look at the future cast so we can kind of show that actual system coming in. So this is overnight into tomorrow morning, and then this is midday tomorrow. So you can see, yeah, pretty good look, right? It starts with a heavy rain out west, and then those snow showers just starting to spot over Flagstaff at the highest elevations of Yavapai County. But there we are at 2 p.m. Now the valley is getting a nice hit of some steady to at times heavier rain too.
And so what would the snow level be at about this point tomorrow afternoon? Like I'm looking at Prescott, for example.
Yes. Yeah. So it's going to start dropping from early stages is, 6,500 to 7,000 feet. And then it'll start dropping through the 6,000s, and it could fall into the 5,000s territory as well.
Really?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so as a result, yet again, maybe some of those foothills to the north and east of the valley with the potential for a little snow. And you'll see that on this future cast, because this system, it's colder and it still has a pretty good moisture supply. So that deep purpley blue color that's on the future cast indicates like a very heavy snow. And you can see how it does drop down into portions of Gila County, a good portion of Yavapai County. So those are some of our lower elevation mountains.
Can you cycle back through that
Sure.
one more time? The way it's moving from just 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock, or say, 3 o'clock, look at that, 4 o'clock,
Yep.
and then 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's moving fast. This seems like it's very fast.
Yeah, so it spreads pretty fast, but it actually kind of lingers after it starts to spread. So then that's 5, like you mentioned. You can see there's still some kind of scattered showers for the valley.
Right.
I think the valley's best shot at like a more constant or heavier rains, like 1 to 4.
Oh, okay.
But there's still some lingering showers into the evening, so that's 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And see how up in the high country there's still snow kind of all over the place. Prescott, near Flagstaff, down to Payson. Interestingly enough, Payson might only pick up, say, 2 to 4 inches.
Yeah.
But like Pine Strawberry or, get to Forest Lakes, considerably higher totals possible as you just get a little higher in elevation.
Well, and I know those folks, that's a good point. I mean, 7,700 feet in elevation up there at Forest Lakes.
Yeah.
But I know Pine Top, Lakeside, Show Low, they've been waiting for a little more snow. Flagstaff's had way more than they have. So
Yes,
I
and
know they want
they're
it.
Pine Top 6 to 8 inches is the forecast I've got going for them.
That's
In the
great.
valley, maybe a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of rain by tomorrow's storm, and then there is the snow total forecast across the map, and so you can see it spreads obviously from west to east. The purple areas are kind of the hot spots. No surprise, it's our highest elevation. So 8 to 12 for downtown Flag, like 12 to 18 for our area ski parks. All good news. Everything we like to see.
Well, you are a constant wealth of information, and we always appreciate it when you
Love
pop
chatting
in
with
on
you.
Fox 10 Talks. We got about a minute, and then I'm going to let you go.
All
but
right.
do you have a favorite fast food place? I don't know if this is like for you or your hubby or your beautiful little daughter. Maybe she has like a favorite for a meal, kid's meal. But like between McDonald's and Burger King
Sure.
and Wendy's and Carl's Jr. and In-N-Out, what do you?
Well, I will never say no to some Chick-fil-A waffle fries, I would say. Those
Okay.
are pretty good.
Yeah.
Chipotle too, usually a pretty good one.
How about this? Wendy's is booming.
Oh,
Yeah.
the Frosty?
Yes, the
Gotta love it.
Frosties are big. They just announced they're going to build 1,000 new fast food locations all around the world.
Oh, man.
Now, that's over the next, I think, 3 or 4 years, but at least 300 of them are going to be right here in the U.S., but they're going to expand, too, for our worldwide audience. I'll just mention a few other countries for people who are watching us in, let's see. They're going to expand in Romania, Ireland, Scotland, the Middle East, and Africa.
Oh, wow.
And they're just opening their first few in Australia. So folks are going to get a chance
To enjoy that Frosty
to
for the first
enjoy
time.
that
to dunk the
Frosty.
fries in the Frosty.
Sure, you got to do it like that, right? All right, Crystal, thanks so much for hanging out with us. And we'll Hey, everybody, welcome back. And we have just sent Crystal off to our big planning meeting, but I'm going to hang with you for these last few minutes in our hour-long edition of Fox 10 Talks. I'm just reading some of your comments here, and they're fantastic. Little Philosophy says, no more dollar menu at many places. Now it's the value menu. Good point. How about this? Killicell 777 said, go for the DQ chili dog. I go to DQ. I'll let myself have a big cone once a week or so. I think I'm going to have to try that one out. Sherry, Nevada Pup, speaking of bacon, I'm fixing to make some. I just made some bacon last night because I had a big pot of green beans. And to me, you just can't have the green beans without the bacon in there. Little Philosophy saying the Baconator is amazing. And all kinds of great comments from you guys. So I'll be sure to tell, like, there's Darche and Gonzalez and Sherry and so many of you guys wishing good wishes to Crystal. She's going to join us again tomorrow as we get you the very latest on what looks like it's shaping up to be one heck of a day. Let's hope we don't have a bunch of stranded motorists like we did just the other day. All right, so we welcome you back to more Fox 10 Talks. Celeste is off this week, so we've been getting various guest hosts. That's why we've been able to have Dominique and Crystal in today. And then we've had Anita earlier in the week. Who knows? We'll pop in tomorrow. But there's a story out there that I am so proud of this guy for coming forward. One of the biggest music names in the country right now. In fact, in country music, he's about as big as they come. And I'm talking about Luke Bryan. I don't know if you have heard what he had to say, or sorry, Luke Combs. But he's been sharing his struggle with OCD, and the reason he decided to come out with what he's been dealing with is he wants to share it with others who are dealing with it as well, particularly younger kids, because he started dealing with it at 12 years old, and he says, I have the tools now. So when it happens, I'm not as afraid of it, but he said it can be pretty mind-blowing. He says he wants to do some mental health outreach to others who deal with OCD, and he says it's something that, at least in some way, I think about every single day. It's called obscure obsessive compulsive disorder because it's so intense and it can strike you at any moment. You don't even know it's going to come when, boom, all of a sudden it hits you, this very intense level of OCD. But he says, I just want to prove one point, which it's possible to continue to live your life and be really successful, and boy, hasn't he been, and have a great family and achieve your dreams while also dealing with things that you don't want to be dealing with. That's something I hope that people take away from me, regardless of my musical success. And according to the National Institute of Mental Health, OCD is a disorder where people just have uncontrollable and recurring thoughts or behaviors or both. And the obsessions are these repeated thoughts that they can't get rid of, along with urges or mental images, and it makes people anxious. And so, there are people who deal with it. I'm sure it's a spectrum type thing, just like so many other diagnosed conditions, where some people have it extreme, and it sounds like he has it extreme. But on the other hand, some might have lighter versions of it. But thank goodness for him, and way to go, Luke Combs, from basically just coming out and sharing your story. And it's never easy, and I love his music anyway, but I'm really proud of him as well. So, St. Patrick's Day is coming up all around the world. And by the way, I have been emceeing the Phoenix St. Patrick's Day Parade, which runs down 3rd Street at about Thomas Road or so, kind of in that area around Palm Lane. I've been emceeing that for the Irish Cultural Center since the 80s. And it's coming up again this Saturday. And if you want to see a great parade with lots of Irish bagpipes and Irish dancers, that's the one for you. They do such a great job. And then if you've seen the Irish Castle in downtown Phoenix and you've never actually explored it, It's amazing. It's right there at the Margaret T. Hance Deck Park, just a couple of blocks from McDowell Road. And you can go in there, and they have all kinds of genealogy material that can help you find out whether you have any Irish roots or not. They say about a quarter of everybody here in the Metro Phoenix area, 5 million people, have some connections to Ireland. Here's why I'm talking about it. The president just welcomed the Irish Prime Minister to the Oval Office, and here's just a little bit of what got said.
You have a massive deficit with Ireland, because Ireland was very smart. They took our pharmaceutical companies away from presidents that didn't know what they were doing. And, it's too bad that happened. It's a tremendous job I give. Look, the Irish are smart. You're smart people. And you took our pharmaceutical companies and other companies, but, through taxation and proper taxation, they made it very, very good for companies to move over there. And we had presidents and people that were involved in this that had no idea what they were doing, and they lost big segments of our economy. The European Union treats us very badly. They have for years. I saw that. I had it out with them in my first term. It did well, but we had to solve other problems, and we did. But European Union's been very tough. And it's our turn, too. We get a turn at that also. But they have not been fair. They sue our companies and win massive amounts of money. They sued Apple, won $17 billion. And they use that for other reasons, I guess, or to run the European Union. So I'm not knocking it. They're doing what they should be doing, perhaps, for the European Union. But it does create ill will. And as you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them. Nobody can complain about that. Whatever it is, it doesn't even matter what it is. If they charge us 25 or 20% or 10% or 2% or 200%, then that's what we're charging them. And so I don't know why people get upset about that, because there's nothing more fair than that. And we had a problem with Ontario, and they dropped that when I let them know what we were going to be doing. They dropped it immediately, so I'm glad, because electricity, you shouldn't be playing with electricity. It affects people's lives. Actually their life. I mean, it can affect, depending on weather, it can affect their life, so we can't do that. And it doesn't make sense that our country allows electricity to be made in another country and sold into us. Who did that deal for the United States? Okay, I looked at that long ago, and I said that's not something that's very smart. So we've had a lot of bad trade policies, and yet we're doing very well right now. But we're doing well because I won the election. If I didn't win the election, you would have had a very bad period. I think a lot of the stock market going down was because of a really bad 4 years that we had. When you look at inflation and all of the other problems wars and inflation and so many other problems. But we're going to have very good years. We had, I don't know if you saw a little thing like the cost of eggs, little to you, but big to people out there, down almost 30%. In the last few days, we got it down. We did a lot of things. We have a great Secretary of Agriculture, and we did a lot of things that got the cost of eggs down very substantially, and so many other things. A very big thing that I'm very happy with is oil is down to $65 a barrel, and that's faster than I would have attempted. We put on the gas. We stepped on the gas in order to get oil, and what's happening. So we're getting that down. And when energy comes down, prices are going to be coming down with it. So in a very short period of time, we've done a very good job. And I think that the tariffs that we're talking about, and again, reciprocal, I think that the tariffs, there are some cases where they're a little beyond reciprocal, because we've been abused for a long time as a country. We have been abused really for a long time, and we will be abused no longer. Okay.
Are you going to retaliate to the EU retaliation?
Education, sir, would you describe for us, is this meeting your vision by cutting about half the workforce? And what responsibility do you feel to the civil servants who have now lost their jobs? Many of them worked at the Department of Education during their first term.
Sure, I do. I feel very badly, but many of them don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. Many of them never showed up to work, Kelly, and unfortunately, and that's not good. And when we cut, we go, and that's what I had number of meetings with a lot of people over the last couple of months. When we cut, we want to cut, but we want to cut the people that aren't working or not doing a good job. We're keeping the best people. And Linda McMahon is a real professional, actually a very sophisticated business person. And she cut a large number, but she kept the best people. And we'll see how it all works out. But our country was run very badly. I mean, whether it was that or contracts that were signed that was so bad, so obviously bad. And I go through them in speeches. I could go through them all day long. I could read for billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. And all of that fat and waste and fraud and abuse is being taken out. But it's incredible what's happened. Now, Department of Education's maybe more so than any other place has a lot of people that can be cut. They're, number one, not showing up to work. Number two, they're not doing a good job. And if you take a look at our education process, and if you look at the charts, because they have numerous charts where they do the top 40, we're at number 37, 38, 39, and 40. And recently they hit, during Biden's last few days, they hit last. So they were number 40, and yet we're number one in cost per pupil. So it's pretty bad. But we have a dream. And you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states can run education. And you have Norway, you have Denmark, you have Sweden, you have Finland, you have various countries that do very well. You also have China that does very well in education, which is a pretty big tribute to China, I must say. 1.4 billion, and they're in the top 10, and it's pretty amazing. So
there's just a little insight for you what the president had to say today in the Oval Office. Hey, we're going to leave you with, did you see, they had that tornado in Florida around Orlando? Just want you to see what it was like for this one lady as she sat in her car and the tornado basically went right over the top of her car. Check this.
Ay, Dios mío. Ay, Dios mío. Dios santo. Dios santo.
Wow. Okay, so we started this hour with weather. We're closing it out with weather. Join us tomorrow for more Fox 10 Talks. We'll be talking about the rain and the snow we're going to be dealing with. Thank you for all your great comments. I read them all in the chat box, and we'll see you tomorrow on Fox 10 Talks.